Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Bonjour à tous. Benvenuti. My name is Maria Pia Spadafora, and I'm the host of this event. The AICVW is pleased to present the third event of the series, Italian-Canadian Literature and Translation, which is part of the Book and Biscotti Literary Series. Benvenuti a tutti e grazie di essere qui. L'Associazione di Scrittori e Scrittrici Italo-Canadesi è lieta di presentare il terzo evento della serie dedicato alla traduzione della letteratura italo-canadese. Anna, over to you for the land acknowledgement.
The AICW acknowledges that we are on the unceded ancestral territories of the First Nations of Canada. L'Associazione Scrittori e Scrittrici Italo-Canadesi desidera riconoscere che siamo sul territorio mai ceduto, il territorio ancestrale dei popoli nativi del Canada.
Grazie. Today we will listen to Katerina Edwards and the translator Giulia De Gasperi, Eloise Carbone, translation by Anna Foschi Ciampolini, Keith Henderson, translation by Fiorella Paris. Each couple of readers will have 15 minutes at their disposal. Please feel free to type your comments or any question in the chat by pressing chat button at the bottom of your screen. We will read and answer some of them at the end of the event. Thanks. With no further ado, I'm going to introduce our first writer, Katerina Edwards, and her translator, Giulia De Gasperi. Katerina Edwards has published 6 books, several as well as 4 of her personal essays, have been shortlisted or won major awards. Her novel, The Sicilian Wife, was a National Post Best Book of 2015 and received very positive reviews in Canada, the United States, and Sicily. Her memoir, Finding Rosa, A Mother with Alzheimer's, A Daughter's in Search of the Past, which was first published in 2008, continues to find new readers in the United States and Australia and is being issued as an ebook recently. The Italian edition, Riscoprendo mia madre, una figlia in cerca del passato, was published last year and has been greeted with rave reviews and media attention on Rai Italia Radio and TV News, as well as a national literary program called Petrarca. Last fall, this Italian translation was featured at the Canadian Pavilion at the Frankfurt Book Fair. Katerina herself was invited to the Salone del Libro di Torino and was guest writer at Ca' Foscari's prestigious International Book Festival, Incroci di Civiltà. In 2016, Katerina was inducted into the City of Edmonton Cultural Hall of Fame. Let's move on to Giulia De Gasperi, the translator. Is a literary translator and editor. She creates Collana Canada, which publishes Canadian literary works in Italian translation for an independent Italian publisher. She's a member of the Writers' Union of Canada, the Literary Translator Association of Canada, and the Association of Italian Canadian Writers. Giulia chairs the AICVW Bressani Literary Prize Committee. She is currently writing her first collection of trilingual poetry. Katerina, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria Pia, and hello to everybody, all my friends, and I think my sister's watching there too, so that's thrilling. I just wanted to start a minute by mentioning the 2 books, because Finding Rosa has been very hard to find in the last while, if any of you have tried, because it's sold out. So all I wanted to say was that Finding Rosa is now available on, it's just been reprinted as an ebook, and it's a really good price, and I don't know if it's quite on Amazon yet, but it will be, and Apple and New West Press. And this is the Italian copy, Riscoprendo mia madre. And I know people felt they had to order it from Italy, but you don't. And again, there's an ebook and also, I think, books available on Amazon. And you can get this for $9.99 as an ebook. So I think that's a good deal for if any of you are curious about the Italian one after hearing Julia read. So I'm just going to read I'm going to read a little passage, and then Julia's going to read the Italian, and then I'll read another little passage. They're both different. I tried to choose two that represented two different kinds of narrative. And in fact, the whole book, whether in whichever language, contains different styles of narrative in my trying to tell the story of my mother. So I use different kinds. So the one I'm going to start with is called Who Remembers? And it's in the mind of my mother when she's a little girl. June 1914. Little Rosa is happy when Papa takes her down to the piazza. She is happy he chooses her and not her sister Conda, who is too little, a baby. So there, a crybaby. So there, chooses her and not her sister Nea, who is too big and has to sit and sew with Mama. And the boys are in the fields with slingshots and old chestnuts, but they never let her play. They let Tony play, but not her. Even around the house, they won't let her play. Even though she knows how to play chaparsi, knows how to lie flat under Mama and Papa's bed, to scrunch up in the kitchen cupboard or crouch behind the umbrella stand. She shows them, but the boys yell and call her nasty names. Serves them right that Papa chooses her and not them. He has been away a long time, driving the big boat that takes the people to Trieste. Lots and lots of people, drives them there and brings them back. Mama says he has to, that's his job. It puts bread on the table. Though really, Rosa has only seen Mama put bread on the table. And Papa goes away, but he always, Mama says, always comes back. I see her, Rosa Pia Pagan. Rosina, they call her, a little girl in a photograph, but alive and in color. The impudent dark eyes, the pink lips that smile and pout, the light brown bobbed hair. She skips along the polished stone path. Papa, she says, Papa. And he holds her little hand in his big one, and she grows happier and happier. And Papa calls her his rosebud, his Rosina, and he sweeps her up and up on to his shoulders. She holds on to the hair on the sides of his head, and she can see everything. Okay, over to Julia.
Hi, everyone. I just want to clarify that I'm reading for Katerina, but actually the translation is not by me, it's by Sabrina Rega. And here I go. Chi se lo ricorda? Giugno 1914. La piccola Rosa è felice quando papà la porta in piazza. È felice che scelga lei, non sua sorella Conda, che è troppo piccola, ancora una bambina, una piagnucolona, insomma. Sceglie lei e non sua sorella Nea, che è troppo grande e deve stare seduta e cucire con la mamma. E i ragazzi sono nei campi con le fionde e vecchie castagne, ma non la lasciano mai giocare. Lasciano giocare Tony, ma non lei. Nemmeno intorno a casa la lasciano giocare, anche se lei sa giocare a ciaparse, sa come farsi piatta patta sotto il letto di mamma e papà, o piccola piccola dentro la credenza della cucina, o sottile sottile dietro il portaombrelli. Lei vince ogni volta e loro urlano e la chiamano con brutti nomi. Gli sta proprio bene che il papà scelga lei e non loro. È stato via per molto tempo, con la grande barca che porta la gente a Trieste, molta gente, li porta lì e poi li riporta indietro. Mamma dice che deve farlo, è il suo lavoro e grazie a quello mette il pane in tavola, anche se in realtà Rosa ha visto solo la mamma mettere il pane in tavola. Papà se ne va, ma la mamma dice che ritorna sempre, sempre. La vedo, Rosa Pia Pagan, la chiamano Rosina, una ragazzina in una foto, ma viva e a colori, gli impudenti occhi scuri, le labbra rosa che sorridono e fanno il broncio, i capelli castano chiaro a caschetto. Saltella lungo il liscio sentiero di pietra. Papà, dice, papà. Lui le tiene la manina nella sua manona e lei diventa sempre più felice e papà la chiama il suo bocciolo di rosa, la sua Rosina. La accoglie tra le braccia mettendosela in spalla Rosina si aggrappa ai suoi capelli ai lati della testa e da lì può vedere tutto. Over to you, Katerina.
Okay, so this is a different part farther on. I'm going to read the beginning of this chapter called Ruins and the end of the chapter. Ruins. I imagine the city is silent and still as a graveyard. Shops closed, corner cafes deserted, streets empty of traffic. Churches, theaters, arenas locked, apartments and houses shuttered. A statue toppled, a plaque defaced. The piazzas and roads opening before me are both familiar and strange, and I am overcome by the sense of eeriness, of absence in the light and the dark. A city of white stone and long shadows. I imagine only one city, though there are many. One city reduced to the sounds of sea, wind, and rain, reduced to a landscape of futility and ruin. I'm gonna try and close this door, so see if that helps. I don't belong here, I tell myself. Don't look behind the broken doors. Don't peer into the cavernous entrances. Do not mount those stairs. They lead nowhere. That floor is gone, like the people who used to live here, gone, like an old woman's past, gone. Turn back, get out, down the hall, feel your way, through the dark to the open air, forcing my legs to move, to go forward, one step after the other, the echoes of my steps on the pavement stones, the sound of memory. Okay, so I'm gonna go on, jump 2 pages and go towards the end of the chapter. One family abandons a house, another family claims it. A culture withers, another blooms. But not everything is refilled, replaced, renewed. Oblivion is not complete. Traces remain. Ruins speak. And there's so many of them. Ruined houses in Los Angeles. I was surprised on the 2001 visit that I had not noticed before. These were not waiting for summer visitors, nor had they been recently vacated by ex-countrymen. These showed signs of decades of desolation. One, then another, and another on the outskirts of Veli Los Angeles. One, then another, and another, all over Istria. I have been told deserted homes. Windows, doors, rooms, gone. People, pets, possessions, gone. Now only an idea of shelter, a collection of absences, 4 walls of plastered rock, lines of stone where walls have once been choked by grasses, homes for marquees and laurels, thistles, and reptiles. The ruins, gray and rough, carried me back to my grandmother, Katerina, standing at the door of her house, turning the key in the lock, thinking she will return, hurrying because her children are afraid, and the soldiers impatient, 1 bag each. The ruins carried me back to my Aunt Marici, throwing her key at the silver leaves of an olive tree. No, there, knowing she will not return, there, directing the retreat, husband, daughter, cart, suitcases, you take that and that, it's no use crying, no use, bearing her granddaughter Katerina carefully, safely in her arms. Decay does not begin, it is ever present, but with no one and nothing to oppose it. The corruption multiplies, dust settles, shrouds, a window is broken, a door breached, chests and carpets taken. Mice nest in the matrimonial bed. The bora blows away a roof tile. Rain, dirt, and seeds enter. Mold darkens, then weakens an inner wall. 50 years of ruination, the stones remain. I'm sorry, Julie, I just realized I started 2 sentences early.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So, rovine. Immagino una città silenziosa e immobile come un cimitero. negozi chiusi, caffè all'angolo deserti, strade prive di traffico, chiese, teatri, arene chiusi, appartamenti e case chiusi, una statua rovesciata, una placca deturpata. Le piazze e le strade che mi si aprono davanti mi sono sia familiari che estranee e sono sopraffatta dal senso di stranezza, di assenza, nella luce e nel buio. Una città di pietra bianca e lunghe ombre. Immagino solo una città, sebbene ce ne fossero molte. Una città ridotta ai suoni del mare, del vento e della pioggia, ridotta a un paesaggio di futilità e rovina. Non appartengo a questo posto, mi dico. Non guardare indietro, non sbirciare negli ingressi cavernosi, non salire quelle scale. Non conducono da nessuna parte, quel piano non c'è più. Come le persone che vivevano qui se ne sono andate, come il passato di una donna anziana scomparso. Torna indietro, esci in fondo al corridoio, senti la tua strada, attraverso l'oscurità all'aria aperta, costringendo le gambe a muoversi, ad andare avanti un passo dopo l'altro. L'eco dei miei passi sulle pietre del marciapiede, il suono della memoria. E ce ne sono tante di case in rovina a Lossini. Durante la visita del 2001 fui sorpresa dalla quantità di case che non avevo notato prima. Queste non stavano aspettando visitatori estivi, ne erano state recentemente lasciate libere da ex connazionali. Mostravano segni di decenni di desolazione. Una, poi un'altra e un'altra ancora, la peria di Lussingrande. Una, poi un'altra e un'altra ancora. In tutta l'Istria mi è stato detto, case deserte, finestre, porte, stanze sparite, persone, animali domestici, oggetti andati. Ora solo un'idea di rifugio, una raccolta di assenze, 4 pareti di roccia intonacata, fila di pietre dove un tempo i muri venivano soffocati da erbe, case per macchia mediterranea e allori, cardi e rettili. Le rovine, grigie e ruvide, mi riportarono da mia nonna Caterina, in piedi davanti alla porta di casa sua, che gira la chiave nella serratura. Pensa che tornerà. Va di fretta perché i figli hanno paura, i soldati sono impazienti. Una borsa ciascuno. Le rovine mi riportarono da mia zia Maricci, che lanciava le chiavi contro le foglie d'argento di un olivo. Ecco, sa che non tornerà. Ecco, dirige la ritirata, il marito, la figlia, il carrello, le valigie. Tu prendi questo e quello, è inutile piangere, è inutile. Tra le braccia, al sicuro e con cura, tiene la nipote Corinna. Il decadimento non inizia, è sempre presente, ma senza niente nessuno che vi si opponga, il disfacimento si moltiplica. La polvere si deposita, ricopre, una finestra è rotta, una porta è stata aperta, casse e tappeti presi. I topi nidificano nel letto matrimoniale. La bora spazza via una tegola. Pioggia, terra e semi entrano. La muffa si scurisce, quindi indebolisce una parete interna. 50 anni di rovina. Solo le pietre restano. Grazie.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. I just wanted to add, Julia said she didn't do the translation, and the main translation was done by Sabrina Rega, and but it was sort of a joint effort, and I think Julia was the translation editor, and she went through it many times and made all kinds of suggestions, and was really instrumental in the whole creation of the Italian translation. So thank you, Julia. And thanks, everyone. Okay.
Thanks, Katerina, and thanks, Julia. Beautiful readings. Let's move on to the second writer, Eloise Carbone, and her translator, Anna Foschi-Ciampoline. Eloise Carbone explored her Italian heritage through memoir poetry. The poems she will read today are a result of her visit to Italy in 2019, when she attended a 2-week writing workshop, Italian Diaspora Studies, hosted by the University of Calabria. 2 of 3 poems she will read are published in the anthology celebrating Calabria. Eloise lives in Vancouver, Canada. Florence-born Anna Foschi-Ciampoline lives in Vancouver, BC. Anna is a short story writer, freelance journalist, and a translator, published in Canada, Italy, and USA. She co-edited 3 anthologies, Emigrante, Writers in Transition, and Strange Peregrination, Italian and Canadian Literary Landscapes. Literary awards include First Prize Città di Forlì 2007, First Prize Italian Week Ottawa 2010 and 1996, and Special Prize Città di Savona. Co-founder of the Association of Italian Canadian Writers, a co-founder of the Bersani Literary Prize sponsored by AICBW, she's an inductee in the Italian Cultural Center Hall of Fame over cultural and humanitarian activities. Eloise, the stage is yours.
So thank you all for coming. Thanks, dear friends, for being here. You're wonderful. Thank you to the AICW for hosting us, and thank you to beloved Anna Foschi, translator par excellence, helping me along the way. The 3 poems that I am reading are a result of my visit to Calabria in 2019 in a writing workshop there. The first one is dedicated to the people of Albidona, Calabria, a people who were greatly affected by the mass emigration of their town men after World War II to parts unknown. The Albidonesi. Saint Michael, Archangel, patron saint of Albidona, conquers the devil as Jesus bleeds on the cross. His bloody scars seeping, oozing, crying with pain. I look up and I cry. The Albidonesi conquer their loneliness with photos hung of their families who left, standing proud against old poverty, now in Brazil, Argentina, Chile. And with what remains, homemade wine, prosciutto, pecorino cheese, olives, and circles of bread deep fried in oil, they dance to the music of goatskin bagpipes. And now I cry again, but for those who have been left behind. Anna?
Well, although I am I have been writing just prose, for some reason, I have been chosen, I had the honor of being chosen by several poets as a translator. And I still feel a little bit apprehensive about that because I've never written any poetry. Anyway, Eloise trusted me, and this is my translation. Gli Albidonesi. San Michele Arcangelo, santo patrono di Albidona, sconfigge il demonio mentre Gesù sanguina sulla croce. Le sue piaghe sanguinanti gocciolano, trasudano, lacrimano dolore, alzo lo sguardo e piango. Gli albidonesi sconfiggono la loro solitudine con le foto appese delle famiglie che sono partite, resistendo orgogliosi contro l'antica povertà, ora in Brasile, Argentina, Cile, e con quello che resta, vino fatto in casa, prosciutto, formaggio pecorino, olive e rotelle di pane fritto nell'olio, danzano al suono di zampogne di pelle di capra. E adesso piango ancora per quelli che sono stati lasciati indietro.
Thank you, Anna. The second one, we're going to have a little bit of an opera with it. So this one is called Like the Calabrese. It was written while I was on a bus as we drove through the Pollino Mountains of Calabria. Like the Calabrese. The Pollino Mountains stand rock upon rock, solid like the Calabrese.
Come i calabresi. Il massiccio del Pollino sorge roccia su roccia, solido come i calabresi.
Their canyon sides shine with streaks, golden like the Calabrese.
I lati delle montagne sfavillano di riflessi dorati, come i calabresi.
Their grandeur reflects bare strength, powerful like the Calabrese.
La loro imponenza riflette forza innata, come i calabresi.
Their formations support side by side, protective like the Calabrese.
Le formazioni si sostengono l'una con l'altra, protettive, come i calabresi.
The mountains of Pollino, with peaks above the clouds, proud like the Calabrese.
I can just.
Il massiccio del Pollino, picchi che svettano sopra le nuvole, orgogliosi, come i calabresi. Grazie.
Thank you. This one is called Epistle to Carlo Levy, and it has been renewed with the encouragement of Anna Foschi. Carlo Levy was exiled to Aliano, Basilicata as an anti-fascist in 1935. We drive the empty roads of the Aliano Badlands, wondering how in God's name Mussolini knew of such a place. And imagine you, Carlo, being brought here a prisoner. We slowly wind our way up to the edge of town, where limestone cliffs crumble, houses slide away from pounding rains, and people hold on for dear life. Nails filled with white clay, hands covered in mud. We wonder whether isolation means poverty. As we meet the blank stares of old men sitting on broken chairs outside bar 666, waiting for the next rains to fall, the next stone wall to collapse. Yet still we do see beauty from the open shutters of your window, the hills rolling into the sunset from your terrazzo, your home now a museum, your eyes now our eyes. And we understand how you, Carlo, conquered your suffering. Your paintings show your love of the children held by mothers scarfed from the cold, of the people with desperation etched on their faces by your oils, and of the hills of Basilicata separating you from your beloved Turin. And we lay rocks on your grave, mixed with flowers and pens, the only sign of life left here on this remote precipice, besides the howling winds and your memoir, Christ stopped at Eboli.
Well, Letter a Carlo Levy has been probably the poem that I felt so involved, and there was a little bit of back and forth with Eloise and an exchange of ideas and opinions. And sometimes I have been a little bit harsh on Eloise because, well, I too go through life in periods where I feel quite grumpy, and that was one of my bad moments. But in the end, I think I tried to be faithful to the beautiful original text. So, lettera a Carlo Levy. Nel 1935 Carlo Levy fu esiliato ad Aliano, in Basilicata, come antifascista. Guidiamo per le vie deserte dei calanchi di Aliano, meravigliandoci di come, in nome di Dio, Mussolini conoscesse un posto come questo. E ti immaginiamo, Carlo, mentre vieni portato qui, prigioniero. Saliamo lentamente fino ai margini del villaggio, dove dirupi di creta si sfaldano, case franano sotto piogge martellanti e la gente lotta per la vita. Unghie piene di creta bianca, mani coperte di fango. Ci chiediamo se isolamento significa povertà quando incontriamo lo sguardo assente dei vecchi seduti su sedie sconnesse davanti al bar 666 ad aspettare la prossima pioggia, lo sgretolarsi di un altro muro di pietra. Eppure, dalle persiane spalancate della tua finestra ammiriamo la bellezza, colline ondeggianti nel tramonto del tuo terrazzo. La tua casa è ora un museo, i tuoi occhi sono ora i nostri occhi e comprendiamo come tu, Carlo, hai conquistato la tua sofferenza. Nei tuoi dipinti vediamo il tuo amore per i bambini cullati dalle madri, con lo scialle a proteggerli dal freddo, per la gente, con la disperazione dipinta in faccia dai tuoi colori, e per le colline della Basilicata che ti separavano dalla tua amata Torino. Le poniamo pietre sulla tua tomba, miste a fiori e penne, l'unico segno di vita lasciato qui, su questo remoto precipizio, oltre al sibilare del vento e alle tue memorie. Cristo si è fermato a Eboli. Grazie.
Grazie a lei. Thank you all.
Thanks. Lovely poems, Eloise, and beautiful translation, Anna. Some announcement. Quickly share up a ride on Wednesday from 10 to 12:30, hosted by Emma Pivato and Joseph Pivato. All are welcome to join a community of writers. And mark your calendars. Our next Italian-Canadian Literature in Translation, our fourth event, is on July 14th. Stay tuned. And let's go back to our writers and translators. I'm going to call to the mic Keith Henderson and his translator Fiorella Paris. Kate Henderson has published 5 novels with DC Books, political essay from when he was Quebec correspondent for the Financial Post, as well as a prize-winning book of short stories, The Pagan Nuptial of Julia, 2006. It led Quebec's Equality Party during the separatist referendum of 1995, taught Canadian literature at Vanier College, Montreal, for many years, and has sat on numerous boards in Anglo-Quebec, including ELAN and AELAQ, is completing a critical autobiography with a special focus on the works of Edith Wharton. Fiorella Paris è giornalista, scrittrice, ha pubblicato Quote Rosa 2013 all'Acne Editrice sul ricorso delle associazioni femminili contro l'ultima giunta di Roberto Formigoni, il presidente e tutte le donne dell'Arem. L'amore tra Oriente e Occidente nel 2015, Cavinata Editore, sulla relazione femminile con la tipologia di maschio dominante. Angizia Pedini e le altre dee, storia del femminile sacro nelle terre d'Abruzzo nel 2019, edizione Ester, un'insolita guida letteraria alla regione che le ha dati i natali, con cui ha mantenuto un legame forte nonostante si fosse trasferita a nord fin da bambina con i genitori. È stata notista politica per l'informazione dell'Alto Milanese, ha collaborato per diversi media cartacei e online, è stata addetto stampa e portavoce del Consiglio regionale della Lombardia, curando la comunicazione del presidente Paolo Valentini. Ha collaborato con l'emittente Canale Italia, ideando e coordinando il formato TV Info-Chiocciola Lombardia. Ha tradotto Acqua Sacra 2017, edizione Kirche Babel, Mont Babel, un reale incontro con gli alieni, 2019, edizioni Ester, dello scrittore anglo-canadese Keith Henderson, è direttore responsabile del quadrimestrale La voce delle forme. Welcome, and over to you, Keith.
Well, thank you, Maria Pia, and thank you all for listening. Much appreciated. I'll just say that our presentation will be a little different because I will be reading a couple of passages, short passages, and Fiorella will be reading different passages that she has chosen and likes. This is from a novella about UFOs, about evolutionary processes and extraterrestrial visitation. It's also about father and son disagreements. The narrator here in this passage is the father. His son is called Tom. I was always only a step or two away from astrophysics, and I felt Ariel was too. Despite my rare Earth proclivities, I conceded there might exist other intelligences in other galaxies. But then I asked my son, could they not simply form part of a larger, expanding Matryoshka doll truth? We can't communicate with trees even though they're alive. We can't speak to them and tell them what the color purple is like because they have no eyes to see and no ears to hear. And yet they are alive, move around the sun and rotate through the Milky Way at the same speed we do. By the same token, we can't explain calculus to a dog or a dolphin because dogs and dolphins lack capacity for mathematical reason. The ultimate relativity, objective reality measured against human brains and their capacity to perceive and to think. Inductive reason alone suggests ours cannot be the unsurpassed means to achieve either. So I proposed, why would those intelligent extraterrestrials not possess sensory perceptions and intellectual capacities immensely beyond our own, evolved over millions of years, such as would render their level of consciousness, their arts, their moral discourse, their science and mathematics, their entire civilized project, so superior to ours, we could never hope to grasp it. And if Tom accepted these premises, why could he not accept the notion of an infinitely evolved consciousness, including a moral consciousness that was the corollary of infinite space, a perfection of consciousness of which we had spiritual intimations, but from which we were ultimately barred? As our minds and our mathematics are excluded from either comprehending or manipulating the extremes of our own number system. Infinity itself, one number larger than the largest number we can think of, or zero, true, absolute, empirical zero, nothing, so much nothing, there isn't even nothing. Is it any wonder, I asked, that at the extremes, the bookends of mathematics, zero and infinity, the unknowables of our finest rational construct meet, that zero divided by zero equals infinity, that parallel lines meet in infinity? This next passage goes away to explain the meaning of the title of the book, Mont Babel. On my return, I asked myself, what was the source of the foreboding I felt about Tom and Iris's visit to Mont Babel? Now, Tom is the narrator's son. Iris is his girlfriend, who as a child attended the Ariel School in Zimbabwe, site of the famous, or depending on your point of view, infamous UFO visitation in the early 1990s. Did they happen before these genuine premonitions some parents undoubtedly have, or afterwards, mere self-exculpatory rationalizations? I can't say. Things have got mixed up for me these days, so I'm less certain of the truth. The late Stephen Hawking's warnings come to mind. Don't be so sanguine about contacting creatures from outer space, he counseled a decade ago. They might be marauders, ready to take over hospitable places, bringers of slavery, pestilence, and genocide, like the Europeans who invaded the Americas. I knew the counter-arguments. At the speed of light, we've been sending radio signals into outer space for over a century. 100 light-year advertisement of our presence, and the calamity hasn't yet occurred. That doesn't mean it won't. Hawking's interstellar realpolitik, a credible antidote to Iris's sweetness and charity. Then there was the increasing prominence of black holes in Western thought. Engines of end time, such as the human mind has never before conceived. We can imagine our forebears contemplating the sulfurous rims of volcanoes and picturing hell. But the sheer gigantism of black holes astounds us. A galactic phenomenon with the diameter of the orbit of Uranus, a mere pinprick in the universe, yet with a mass of billions upon billions of suns, its outer circumference, the event horizon, glowing rainbow-like with the spectrum's innumerable colors, sucking in whatever comes near, whole stars, turning them into nuclear spaghetti, descending where? Nobody knows, like saber-toothed tigers lost in the La Brea tar pits. Sometimes, as is the case with ultra-massive black hole, it emits from its core a shaft of chaotic, full-colored energy, millions of light years into space, life's weirdest beacon. A sign of what? The sublimity of the mind of God? Lord Krishna, destroyer of worlds? The triumph of Lucifer and of death? Truly, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, human or otherwise. There could be no greater, profounder extremity. My son with her, preoccupied by asteroids and meteors and craters, Iris, sweet as she was, seemed fully to occupy that extraterrestriality in all its dangerous, soul-defying dimension. Now we know such galactic phenomena are quite real. The Americans having placed their 4-kilometer-long tuning forks in California and Louisiana to capture the sound of two black holes colliding 300 million light years away, and so measure entirely new vibrations, gravitational waves. I should have warned them both sooner. What gave me more pause was Mont Babel itself. I had no idea where this was or why Iris had called it the Eye of Quebec. I quickly found out. 300 kilometers north of Baie-Comeau, Mont Babel is a mountain created by Earth's crust rebounding from the impact of a meteor 210 million years ago. It sits on Île René Levasseur, like a pupil in the middle of a huge annular lake, visible from outer space, hence l'œil du Québec. And now it's over to Fiorella.
I choose two passages, and for me that reveal writer's minimalism. By minimalism, I mean the story told without many frills, where even psychological introspection are told with an essential languages. Here, Keith Henderson, using the metaphor of gardening, speaks about philosophical and ethical question, I mean life, death, part of the journey of humanity. Now I read in Italian. C'era da meravigliarsi che preferissi il mio giardino. Potevo scegliere che cosa far vivere o morire. In primo piano i rossi e rosa, con i gialli e i blu sul fondo. Potevo deliziare i miei occhi sull'arcobaleno di luce visibile e fregarmene dei raggi X, o raggi gamma, o raggi cosmici. La normalità, beata la normalità umana. Il miracolo dell'ordinario e del quotidiano. Crochi, phlox, aquilegge, l'intera poetica panoplia. Sollevai queste obiezioni a Tom per lo più con email o su Facebook. Lui viveva vicino Pickering, mentre io abitavo fuori in Montreal. Così i nostri contatti raramente erano diretti. Mi disse che gli rammentavo un bimbo spaventato che si nasconde sotto le coperte fingendo di essere salvo. Non c'era nulla di normale nella realtà e assai poco nei processi di vita che non fosse brutto, brutale e breve o soltanto redento, se la redenzione fosse in qualche modo un termine accettabile, dalle sfide e dalle operazioni della ragione scientifica. Noi stessi eravamo il prodotto di immense esplosioni interstellari, polvere di stelle, temporanee, evanescenti. Abbiamo vacillato nell'essere con la stessa intensità e luminescenza delle stelle stesse, nella loro nebulosa zona dischiusa galattica di gas e polvere. Loro per miliardi di anni, noi per i nostri miserabili 70 anni. Well, now this passage from chapter 15 instead is really for me interesting and curious. Here too, Keith Henderson speaks about the meaning of true and false, real and imaginary, that often coexist together. Now I read in Italian. Quella sera arrivai tardi a Las Vegas e presi un taxi per l'hotel. Non aveva senso disturbare Tom e Iris, pensai. Per strada percepii il caldo di mezz'estate, il bagliore chiassoso di luci, luci ovunque. In questo deserto persino l'acqua di Bellagio sembrava fasulla. Dovetti ammettere quanto odiassi questo posto con la sua cultura nottambola del parco a tema per adulti, il suo edonismo dilagante, la sua torre spaziale da urlo e, per i più tradizionali, i suoi hotel con tour in gondola. Fattizio. Tom mi odiava quando usavo quella parola. Mi ricordai una conversazione di un po' di tempo fa. Se vuoi dire falso, di falso. Fattizio, mi schermì, è così pretenzioso. Ma a dire il vero, amavo le fonti latine della lingua inglese. Perché avere le parole e non usarle mai? A meno che non si abbia alcuna affinità per le sfumature. Anche a Tom piacevano quando si adattavano ai suoi scopi scientifici. Inoltre, adoravo le parole da scorpione con piccoli pungiglioni nella coda. Fattizio era una di queste, in parte perché appariva così completamente l'opposto di fittizio. Fatto, la parola dichiarava, non finzione. Eppure in esso stava il piacevole paradosso. Fattizio significava fittizio e poi ancora artificiale finto, inventato, artificioso. La parola diceva qualcosa sui fatti del tipo: stai attento. Da questa prospettiva, a mio parere, Las Vegas era per antonomasia fattizia, esattamente il posto sbagliato se si voleva essere presi sul serio per tenere un convegno su UFO. That's all. Overtit. Thanks.
Thanks, Keith and Fiorella. Very interesting readings. And thank you, everyone, readers and friends and family, for joining us today. Thanks to my technical host and president of the Association of Italian Canadian Writers, Ligia Candon. Thanks also to Christine Sanzalone, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us. And this event was brought to you by the Association of Italian Canadian Writers, which is run by a group of volunteers. We welcome donation at any time. Go to aicvw.ca to donate and to find out more about our activities. Thanks.